What's up, Motorheads, and welcome back to Gearbox Pizza. So many updates lately, and today we're going to take a look at the somewhat controversial BMW X7 refresh. And there's plenty to take a look at beyond this whole new design direction BMW's rolled out. I mean, you may have noticed these new headlights on this guy, as well as the new 7 Series and i7. Yeah, it's sort of weird. Alright, so what is this thing? Well, it is the biggest consumer vehicle BMW has ever made, and as the name would suggest, it's sort of the big brother to the already mega popular X5. So with that extra size, you now have a third row of seats, which makes this the most capable people mover in the BMW family. Now, as this is a mid-cycle refresh, there's a bunch of somewhat new stuff. Again, there's that new front end with these, well, let's go with interesting. These interesting headlights, and look, more on that later. On the inside, there's a brand new, just huge digital display. Well, it's actually two displays that are kind of connected right there in the middle, but there's a 12.3-inch gauge cluster along with a 15-inch touchscreen infotainment display right there in the middle, but it is tilted slightly towards the driver, and we kind of dig that. There's also a bunch of stuff you'd expect at this price point, like heated and ventilated seats. You got this giant panoramic sunroof and all that luxury stuff you'd come to expect from a Bavarian flagship. All right, let's talk power. And like last year, this giant is available with your choice of 3 motors and 3 trims. So the base model, the xDrive 40i, is powered by a 375 horsepower turbocharged inline 6, which is a solid 40 horsepower bump from the outgoing model. Torque is also up by 67 pound-feet all the way to 398 pound-feet of torque. Next, the M50i is now the M60i, which might be a little odd for you old school Beamer heads out there. Like, you remember the 60? Well, it's historically been reserved for the V12s in the lineup. But yeah, look, unfortunately the V12 is basically on life support, and come to think of it, who's even making V12s anymore? I'm just gonna look into this a bit actually. Anyway, the M60i still makes 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, which is enough juice to get this fella to 60 from a standstill in 4.5 seconds. Not bad, but if that's just not enough power for you, BMW will gladly sell you the Alpina XB7, which makes a pretty crazy 630 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. And 60 comes quick with this fella at 4 seconds flat. And check this out, top speed is up, way up. How's 180 miles an hour sound? These are pretty crazy numbers for something that'll, I don't know, likely see its fair share of soccer practices and carpools, but it is not a proper M model, and I really don't think BMW will or even should make a real M version of this thing. I mean, seriously guys, protect that M brand. I mean, look what happened to AMG. All right, anyway, M cars are special, let's keep it that way, and the Alpina version is as much performance as you could possibly want in something this size. All 3 engines and specs are paired with an 8-speed automatic with all-wheel drive, along with an air suspension and adaptive dampers. The chassis, well, it can also be enhanced with available rear axle steering and active anti-roll bars. Both of those come standard in that big boy M60. Another interesting thing here is that the smallest wheels available on the new X7 are going to be 21s. And get this, for the first time ever, BMW is making and offering a 23-inch wheel. 23s! That's crazy. I mean, like the E36 M3 that had like 17s. Anyway. Okay, so I've sort of been putting this off, but it's time to talk about the new face. Now, we just covered the brand new BMW i7, which shares this whole new headlight design direction. And in that review, we didn't love the new direction on the i7, as it sort of looks just, I don't know, just like a little strange and maybe a little out of place. But anyway, in that video, I said that this direction looks and feels much better on the X7, and I still feel that way. I mean, dare I say I actually like this design on the X7? I don't know, it just feels different on an SUV for some reason. If it were up to me, I'd keep working this angle for the X lineup and maybe walk it back a little bit for the normal cars. I mean, I'm just now kind of coming around to the mega grille on the M3 and the M4. And yeah, look, I'm actually starting to like it, but let's leave the headlights alone on these, please. I mean, there's already a lot going on. Let's just not get too fussy. Alright, so cool, you're digging it. You need that third row of seats and you dig the extra space and you're just kind of a sucker for German engineering. So how much is this all going to cost you? So the entry-level xDrive 40i is going to start at around 75 grand. And if you want that V8 and all that juice, well, now you're talking about a starting price of about 100 grand or so. What, too many people have that X7 on the block? Well, the Alpina is nice. It is very nice, but it's gonna cost you about 150 grand, which is a little bit ouch, a little bit. All right, so how does this big boy stack up against the competition? Now, I've been lucky enough to spend some time in an X7, both as a driver and a passenger, and for what it is, a giant premium people and stuff mover, it does the job perhaps better than anyone. Now, you can take my word for it, but as I've discovered, Car and Driver actually happens to agree, as I have the X7 ranked highest in class, beating competition like the Mercedes GLS, the Range Rover, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and the Lexus LX. So that's the X7, and forever, if you wanted a big people mover, you were looking domestic. You know, the Ford Expeditions, the Excursions, and the Suburbans. Now you've got some seriously nice imports that are filling this void pretty well. So yeah, if you need a big luxurious people mover, the X7 is probably a pretty good place to start, but there's also just way more options than ever in this space. So yeah, just go nuts. Just go nuts. Go drive everything.